Hello, my name is Byron Odion. I'm a member of Braver Angels and a member of the Central Eastern Washington Alliance. This is a recording of a Braver Angels Central Eastern Washington Alliance meeting held on Zoom on March 19th, 2025 that I edited and am releasing. Adams County Sheriff Dale Wagner was kind enough to share some of his time with us for the purpose of hearing his perspective about the relationship between law enforcement in Washington State and ICE. Sheriff Wagner spent some time off camera and muted, getting a lay of the land, so to speak, before deciding to join us. We are starting the recording when he turned on his camera and unmuted. Although I got permission from Sheriff Wagner to release this recording, I've removed names from those I didn't get permission from who were asking him questions. Well, without further ado, let's get started.
Hi, my name is Sheriff Wagner with Adams County.
Oh,
you're here.
Oh,
yay. Thank you for joining us.
I'm not going to get too into depth of the actual case against the county, obviously, but I will tell you a lot of the things that we are dealing with in our county, and I will explain to you some of the things that we're faced with from the law enforcement perspective. If I may, I mean, if you guys have any questions first, we can do that, or I can just explain some things to you first, and then we can go from there.
go ahead.
Well, okay, great. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself first. I've been the sheriff. I've been working for the sheriff's office in Adams County for 28 years. And I became the sheriff in 2014. And I've been elected every time since. And I'm currently serving in my technically 3.5 terms because the sheriff in 2014 retired and I was elected into that spot. In that time, we've seen a lot of change politically across the country, across the world, obviously the things we're dealing with. In 2019, we were hit with a lot of things that were completely off the wall in a way when it comes to the law enforcement perspective. I want to give a little bit of history as to what sheriffs are compared to police chiefs. Police chiefs are run by a city administration. Sometimes they're liberal, sometimes they're conservative. It doesn't really matter, but they're at the whim of those people that that hire them. Usually, the mayor has the final say as to who's kept or retained or let go and things like that. Sheriffs are elected by the people, as you well know, in each jurisdiction. In most, in King County, I believe, is different, but the rest of the state is elected by the people within their jurisdiction. Again, I have been here for 28 years. I've completely given my life and service to this community. In my time as sheriff, where we were a revolving door agency, where people that we would get, because we're a small agency, we don't pay the most. We'd become a breeding ground for training people, and then they'd leave after 2 or 3 years, and it was hard to retain. And then all these different things occurred. As when I became sheriff, my goal was to retain as many people as possible. And what I wanted to do is my department reflect my community. Since I've been the sheriff, we went from 2 Hispanic people working from the sheriff's office to half. I also have an African American working for me. So we are very diverse. We have a lot of women working in different areas of the county, whether it be of the sheriff's office, whether it be dispatchers or jailers. We have a different age demographic. We have some that are older than me and some that are younger, obviously, than me. My goal was to make our department mirror our community. We have guys that I've hired that served in the military for many years and got their citizenship that way. They came across the border with their parents, potentially illegally, but what they did is they worked really hard to get their citizenship and gave their lives for years to the service of our country in the military and got their citizenship and then helped their family get it. So I'm very versed in the aspect of immigration. I'm very versed from the people that work for me in how it functions, how it works, and how people feel about it. We're in a 64% Hispanic populated county. We have the agriculture. We have what people are saying we need these people for, right? So when the laws have been changed, whether you agree with them or not, they're there. And sometimes it's polarized based on political views. And that's unfortunate, because really what it does is puts on one side, you're putting the fear of people or fear into people that bad things are going to happen based on actions of people from far away, right? You also have the aspect of two political people that don't have agreements on a lot of things that are occurring throughout the nation and locally. And unfortunately, it puts law enforcement in a bad position. It always has, and it always will. It used to be defund the police. Now it's defund ICE, right? There's a whole lot of things that are going on that are politicized based on ideologies from the right and from the left. Law enforcement has to clean up the mess, and unfortunately, we get caught in the middle on a lot of things. So with that being said, some of the things that are being said about Adams County, which I can't go into details, obviously, because it's litigation, things that are brought forward by the state attorney general. And I'm going to tell you right now, factually, most of it is untrue. Some of the things he has cited is we arrest on immigration status. We do not. We never have. We never will. He also said we detain and we hold people in our facility for the last 2 years on immigration status. My jail's been closed for 3 years. We don't hold anyone at our facility. We transport to the neighboring counties, Benton County and Franklin County, 70 miles away, as he listed in his report that we traveled 70 miles away. Well, it takes us 70 miles one way to bring the person back to Adams County to release them per the rules of those jails that we contract with. Franklin County's rules are if they're released from Franklin County, we have to pick them up and bring them back to our county and release them from our facility. We do share information with ICE because they're another law enforcement entity and they have access to that information publicly. I listened to a little bit earlier, and some of the people that were talking here were saying that I believe they read the Keep Washington Working Act. And I promise you, I know it backwards and forwards for the most part. I'm not an attorney, don't get me wrong. But the understanding of that is very, very, very interesting. Some of the things that that we deal with law enforcement are spur of the moment. Some of them take time, some of them don't. I mean, we're talking a whole gamut of issues. The situation that this is in regarding is bringing an individual 70 miles, releasing him back to Adams County. ICE has public information that all law enforcement, including police departments and counties across the state, we put who is in custody. The local people know it. You can go to my app. It's public information who's in custody and for what charges. Some agencies put the dates that they're on for court and the dates they're going to be released. ICE is aware of all that, especially with the big push for all these things that are occurring. If someone that they want is going to be released from any facility and ICE really wants them, they're going to go and try to find them, right? Again, without talking about any particular case, it's not uncommon for ICE to show up at a jail facility looking for someone that has violated the law and that they need to apprehend or take into custody. Now, whether that happens inside the jail or outside in the parking lot, that really doesn't matter to me because they're there for a purpose. They're there because they need this person. It's probably safer. Whether it happened that way or not, I'm not going to discuss that because I don't want to get into that stuff. But it's happening every day. Every facility in the state of Washington, whether they release them or have them come in, that's just what happens. The state made some pretty interesting claims. I don't appreciate that I'm surrounding myself with white nationalists because I decided that I needed help because the state was coming down very strongly right after the election occurred and they found out that their winner wasn't the winner. All of a sudden, Adams County is faced with a consent decree from the Attorney General's office saying that they're going to basically take over operations for the county. That ain't happening. So as a sheriff, we are constitutionally elected. We have constitutional things that we have to deal with per the state constitution and the United States Constitution. Unfortunately, the United States Constitution trumps state constitution on a lot of issues. As this argument goes on, again, I'm not an attorney. That's why I needed help. We sought out some people that could assist us because the state of Washington has 800 attorney generals. I don't know why, other than this kind of stuff. They like to sue for everything. The state decided to come out and say that because of Donald Trump getting elected, that the sheriff's office had to go and get a nationally recognized law firm to assist us. I was grateful they were able to do that for us. Are we paying for it? No. They're doing it pro bono. Anybody on this screen offered defense pro bono for things you believe and stand in. I would hope that you would probably look at that and go, maybe we need to do something. So nationally, it's a big deal. Locally, it's a big deal. But I will say that as myself in the state of Washington, knowing what I know about the agricultural business and how it functions, we are not going out with my people who are from these families that live here. Another point to make for the sheriff's office here, all of my deputies live in Adams County, every single one of them. We police the people we love. So that's really it in a nutshell. I can answer as best I can a lot of the questions that you might have, but there is a lot of gray area in these things. And it's really bad legislation, in my opinion, because of that. Similar to somebody was mentioning the marijuana laws. You're right. The federal government could come in and they say anyway, and stop it all right now. Why don't they? I don't know. I know in 2017, the sheriff's office in Adams County, we busted several huge, biggest in Adams County history, marijuana grows that were illegal when marijuana became legal. Because people thought, hey, it's a fast business, right? So those are all things that we deal with, and it's ever changing. Everything is always changing. And we have to do what's right for our communities and the people that we serve. And that's really it in a nutshell. And unless you have any questions that I can answer for you.
Do you want to lead this? Well, Emily is going to do that.
Here's what I would recommend. Why don't we have Ken ask his questions, because the sheriff was lovely enough to both persist with technology and give us an introduction. And while, thank you very much, Sheriff. And
Sure.
while asks her his question, I'll just put a reminder of what we mean by questions of curiosity in the chat so folks can read it. But it's not gotcha questions. It's not questions where we're trying to stimulate debate. It's really coming in with a genuine sense of inquiry about the issue that we're discussing.
I appreciate that. And the reality is there's really no gotcha questions. If I feel like I can't answer it, I'm going to say that. And I hope you would trust that I'm not lying to you, because I feel that I wouldn't be. I might say I can't answer that right now, whatever, but the reality is I appreciate questions. I have nothing to hide. There's nothing here that I'm running from. So I'm willing to do what I can for you.
Sheriff Wagner, I really want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for being an articulate, factual spokesperson, and for clarifying. As you pointed out, the politics in this get to be difficult. So I don't have any specific questions. I want to thank you for being here.
Byron, your hand's up. Do you have a question or curiosity?
Well, Sheriff Wagner, actually, thank you for being here.
Sure.
My question is, this is being recorded, sir. And that was a pretty profound statement. That was well articulated. Would you be willing to release this recording?
Look, I have nothing to hide. There's no, let's put it this way. I know that I'm being recorded, right? And what you do with it, I would hope that you would put the truth with it, because there's a lot of things that can be changed and twisted to try and get, and I'm not saying you would, but I am saying that everything I just spoke of to you was not notes. This is real life. This is real person. This is real love for my community, and I'm going to defend it. My job as a sheriff is to protect and serve my community. So if you're going to release it, please just be honest with it. Not that you wouldn't be. I'm just saying there is a lot of people that don't. They like to pinch out little pieces. But it is what it is. I knew when I clicked my face and found the microphone and all that stuff that this probably would be released somehow.
Actually, if I did air, it would be from good intentions. You know how that goes. Actually, I'm not that well versed. I mean, I guess what I want to know is, with your officers, is there something that you see, a pattern that you can help us with that would help your officers? I mean, like, from a public stance. I mean, you heard me talking about Wyson. You heard me talking about,
Yep.
like the rapid response. Okay, so I'm a rapid response person here. Should I stand 2 feet away from your officer? You know what I'm saying? I mean, have you? I mean, so I'm not posing my question well, sir, but it's like, is just something like de-escalating, or just something, anything that that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think for me, we're in an age of cameras. My guys all wear them. Okay, we have the videos, we have the microphones, we have the recordings. I mean, all my guys are very aware of that. I'm aware of that. It doesn't bother us so much that people are recording. What tends to escalate, and you mentioned de-escalate, but what escalates thing is when we're trying to do whatever it is we're doing, whether it be immigration. We're not doing the immigration, but if we are assisting because they called us for help or things like that, our job is to make sure that everybody's safe. And these are law enforcement people that come from ICE, whether people like it or not, they are. And we have to protect them just like we do anybody else. And so I guess my suggestion for that is, you can zoom in. You don't have to be in my face. You don't have to be in the face of the officers who are trying to do a difficult job in the first place. And also which is more common in bigger cities, I would imagine, because here it's not too, I mean, we don't deal with it as bad. But the screaming, yelling, profanities and those kind of things because you don't agree with the things that are happening and stuff, that doesn't help anything for us. We understand it. We understand that people are going to do that. We understand that there's some agitators and there's some people that really want to understand what's going on, but it just makes one more thing more difficult for us. We're in a dangerous job, probably more so in the last 10 to 15 years than ever before in law enforcement. And so another point, and if I might, I wanted to make sure that this was understood too. Since 2000 and I want to say it was 16 or 17, Adams County has had the most, we've had an uptick in homicides over the years. And it's not, I wouldn't say illegal aliens or immigrants against Americans. It's against each other. I'm talking some of the most gruesome you'll ever experience, and they made national news from Little Adams County, right? We've had, and I don't want to get too gory or graphic, but a mother and a daughter dismembered into multiple things. And how does that affect our community? How does that affect our guys? And I'm not saying every immigrant is that way, but the dangerous ones, we've got to deal with that somehow, some way. And I'm going to throw that a little bit back to the Attorney General, because they actually came and helped us with that case. Another point to make is the state seems to be on a different level of abilities. The state of Washington allows their jails to work with ICE. The state of Washington allows trading of information. And if you read the KWW, it says that. And that, to me, is a little interesting. They'd like to take all the authority away from all the locals that are dealing with these issues firsthand and put it in state control. I think people miss that part of it because sheriffs are a big target right now. KWW, I'm sorry, Teresa, it's Keep Washington Working Act. So some of the things that we're talking about seems to be a little weird when it comes to the state and what they do. So another confusion point for people. So anyway, did that answer your question, sir?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your caring.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else?
Hi, Sheriff Wagner. Thank you once again for coming. Well, I actually have two quick questions. The first
Sure.
one I asked while you were already in the room, I think, and that is, how much are you finding that law enforcement is policing based on their political leaning? Like, if I'm leading liberal, that I'm tending to say, well, the state says this, and if I'm leading conservative, and I might say, well, the feds say this. How much do you see that? As well as is political leaning wise, is ICE a politically conservative organization, or how does that land as well? Just based because we have so much politics involved here, I'm just curious.
Well, that's a true statement. Politics play a huge role in everything, right? In Adams County, we're a conservative county, right? I would say the majority. If you look at the map of the last election, the majority of Washington was red, right? Based on voting, right? And I'm not saying anything other than that. That you had a lot of conservatives, mainly in the agricultural areas, in the different counties across the state for whatever reason, right? So it's no different than when you go into a different area to visit family. You find your family, you hang out with your family, right? In other words, everybody we have our differences at times, but we tend to live where we want and feel comfortable, right? I think a big part of any office or anything like that is part of leadership. If everybody on your team has bought into your mission and has bought into your goals and pride yourself, and everybody knows what you stand for, and they get behind it, I think that's not something I demand at my office, but they know where I stand at my office. Does that make sense? And so people tend to gather where their beliefs are. I think if you're conservative, you want to be around conservative people. If you're leaning to the other side or whatever you want to call it, I don't look at it that way. It's just, I grew up in a conservative home, but back in the day, everybody was kind of centric. Everybody understood and was able to communicate instead of yelling and screaming and causing division and fighting and being rude and the things that are happening today. You can agree to disagree. Now it doesn't seem like you can, right? If you have an opinion now that's different from whoever, it seems like it's a destruction tool. They're going to destroy you, and that's unfortunate. But I don't think. I think you go where you want. If people didn't like my mission at my work or my office, or they didn't like the things we stand for, like service above self, that's our motto, right? Service above self. If you don't like that, don't feel comfortable with that, you're probably going to look for a place that's different. So that's all I can really say to that. That's a hard one because people are different all over, but you don't force ideals. You allow ideals to be believed in and give them the opportunity to grow in my view.
Could I ask a question, Sheriff?
Sure.
What sources or where could we find objective information pertaining to the lawsuit or the the issue that's really. I'm sure that there's something that could be, not subjective, but you could read it and educate yourself on the
Yeah.
issue that you're presenting, and it sounds you have very compelling and very, I respect your presentation. It just
Sure.
it was great. I just want to find out some more details about it.
Yeah, I think the best way to do that in this particular case is going to be watching all the court documents, right? Because like I said, you're only getting, and when I say this is, you said this was a presentation. To me, this was just an open forum talking. I didn't prepare anything for this. I was told on, I believe it was Monday. Yeah, it was at Mr. Baumgartner's open thing. Anyway, in Ritzville. I was asked to come and be part of this. I thought the Sheriff Knoll would be here, which he didn't, and that's totally on him. It could be he's busy. I have no idea. To get the both sides of the story is going to be very difficult until you're in court.
Right.
And really, but I will say this: my response on my Facebook page was true, honest, right? Um, I will say that there is a lot of discrepancies, and I'm just telling you from my standpoint as the sheriff and knowing my community better than probably Nick Brown, who lives in Olympia. And the things that were said were unfortunate, and it seems that's how the political environment is right now. It seemed, and a lot of sheriffs across the state have reached out to me and said this is completely political. I'm an 18-man department, very little resources. My jail has been closed for 3 years because of a major incident that occurred there. Why he's coming after Adams County of all places when we are, except for, in my opinion, we're a Hispanic community in agriculture that he could send a message potentially with. It's almost like a David and Goliath scenario, right? We can destroy this one person and get him in line so that all the other sheriffs will flock into line. The date that it was announced, in my opinion, was very political. 2 days before 1399. Are you familiar with House Bill 1399? So House Bill 1399 had till Wednesday of that week to be either pushed forward in the legislature or kicked out. And you should look into that bill. It was basically a way of controlling all sheriffs. If they didn't like something you did, say their claim of me breaking the Keep Washington Working Act, 1399 would actually give the governor and the attorney general the authority to remove a sheriff and not even go to the people of that county. And that is that goes against all constitution. The sheriff is covered under state constitution without me making an amendment or anything. That was the big push. And so on Monday, he came out with this thing about Adams County because 2 days it either had to be pushed forward or denied. And a lot of people just overlook that. If you're in the political world, you don't overlook that.
Well, thank you. You were very eloquent in expressing your view and your situation. So thank you, Sheriff. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to ask you because I'm going to sound like I don't really understand this very well, but you mentioned that the state will deal with this differently at state prisons or at a state level.
Yeah.
I mean, in what circumstances do you see the state of Washington, I will use this phrase, cooperating with ICE and federal standards for these issues? Are there any in which are they totally? Is the idea that this KWW says we don't deport anyone based, for virtually? Where does the state open the door to cooperating with ICE? I guess that's what I'd like you to talk to me about.
That's a good question. I don't know all the answers to that. I can tell you that in the Keep Washington Working Act itself, it relieves them of some of that, of the same responsibilities they're asking of the counties and the cities to do. It kind of gives the state a way out. And I know for in talking to many correctional officers in Coyote Ridge over in Connell, the state prison there.
Mhm.
ICE is there all the time inside the facility, interviewing, taking people, you name it. So the state has a
That's
different,
a federal, that's a state facility.
correct, state facility. Yeah. And so it also poses the question, and I haven't looked into this because I don't, me personally, I don't really care what the state does when it comes to their operations, right? But when you look at, say, this incident that I was telling you about, where this person had murdered these two individuals, a mother and a daughter, and the AG came and helped us with the prosecution of the case. My team put together a great case. We were able to catch the guy within 6 hours. It was exciting. It was a great team effort to get this individual, and then have him to confess to the crime and all that kind of stuff is really a big deal, right? The state came in and assisted us, the Attorney General's office, in the prosecution of that case. This person gets however many years, whether it be 25 to life, I have no idea. I can't remember offhand. But he got a lot of time. After he's done with his time here, are they going to kick him out onto the street, or are they going to release him to ICE? Good question, right? We'll see.
So is the individual eligible for deportation to country of origin?
Of course he is. But will the state do that? That's a question for them. They should, and that's what you would imagine would happen, but we'll see. Those are the things we're dealing with. I don't know that it is said that the state, and like I said, you got to read the Keep Washington Working Act. It does relieve them of the same things that they're asking everyone to abide by.
Sheriff, that was my second question is,
Sure.
how low a crime do I have to commit to be afraid of being deported? Like a traffic speeding ticket? I mean, up to what level?
So
Where is the cutoff?
Yeah, that's not something I can answer. That's an ICE immigration type of thing, right? We don't arrest for immigration holds. We don't arrest because you're illegally in the country. You get arrested for crime, right? In Washington, in Adams County, if you steal a car, you're going to jail. If you hurt somebody or domestic violence, you're going to jail. The information is put out onto the public website then and can be accessed by anybody saying who's in custody. When ICE does their research and they decide they want that person, they will take a detainer or a warrant. Now, Adams County, again, my jail's closed. So I have to go by the rules of the jails that we contract with. So if Franklin County decides, and I don't know if, I don't believe they do, but a detainer, if they're going to honor the detainer, right, then ICE can come and do what they're doing on the detainer. But if they don't, and they need a warrant, I would imagine that ICE would get a warrant if that person was that important to them. But as far as the level of crime, I can't answer that. I don't know. I don't know everything that they know. When they're looking for somebody, it's not, and this is the other scare tactic, right? They're going to pull up in a bus and they're going to run out into the field after all these people, and all these people are going to get rounded up and put on the bus. That hasn't happened since I've been a cop. And it's 28 years. None of that has happened. On another note, I will say this. So if you go into Adams County and the Walmart in Othello, okay, a 64% Hispanic population of the county. On Friday, I was in Walmart. It's like one of my worst places to be. I don't like Walmart just because I don't like to shop. But anyway, was in there and there was buses, white buses of people coming in from the fields and doing their pruning and things like that are common around here at this time of year, getting ready for the plant and everything. And these people weren't scared. They were getting off their bus. They were laughing, giggling, joking, going shopping. That was their time to go and do their things to get ready for the week. There's a couple things to keep in mind with that. They're all H-2A workers. Do you know what that is?
They have a visa.
They have a visa, a work visa. They have to be here. Or they're able to be here. Most of them have been vetted. They're not running. They're not scared. They're showing up together. And I'm talking a lot of buses. We're not talking just two, right? They're together. There is a legal way to do this stuff, right? But that's being overlooked because of the fear factors. I think there's a lot more fear being thrown around than people realize.
Are you thinking fear of immigrants or fear, trying to instill fear in immigrants?
Yes. How do you put it other than I'm a Caucasian male in a Hispanic community? I'm not afraid of them. I mean, these people aren't afraid of each other. We're not afraid of each other. Everybody has a common theme. I think as a community, in all communities, you don't want bad things happening. You don't want bad people doing bad things. Doesn't matter who you are. American, Mexican, Venezuelan, and I do have a deputy that's Venezuelan. I thought that was kind of interesting too. Right? So I think the scare tactics that are being used politically is what's really hard to deal with for communities. These people here, they have family ties all the way down to Mexico. They know exactly who is good and who is bad. They know it. And they don't want them here. The bad ones.
Yeah, I'm calling from Kennewick, and sort of just extending on what was just said. I'm just really curious the extent of the immigration problem in Washington State. I mean, not the legal ones, okay, but illegal ones in some manner. And I don't know if there, are statistics, some kind of estimates of how many illegals are actually in Washington State or in Eastern Washington. And out of that, how many of them, what percentage are they just despicable, like the one case that you just mentioned? And so I'm just wondering about significance, because it seems like the news says it is huge. And I'm just like you're saying, you have law-abiding people doing their job just fine. And how can we get a handle on how significant the problem is or is not? So that's what I'm curious about.
So I don't keep tabs on numbers of people that have come here, but I can tell you the influx of people in the last 4 or 5 years, probably even longer than that, to be honest with you, there's a lot more people. There's just a lot more people. Whether they're illegal or not, it doesn't matter. Othello has grown quite a bit, and it's continuing to grow, right? We know that there's quite a few here that cross the border illegally. We know that just by the sheer numbers. Now, statistically and all that stuff, you'll have to ask ICE. You'll have to ask the people that keep those numbers, and you're going to have to do what I do and watch the news. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the one at the door going 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know that. But I will say you can't. Nobody can deny that they're here. There's no way you can deny it.
Yeah. You talked about that most of the agricultural workers have documentation. I was wondering whether there's much of a population of people under DACA status, and how they're feeling now, whether they're feeling insecure or.
I don't know. I honestly can't. I don't track that. It's just not something I would know.
As others have said, thank you very much for coming this evening. We really
Sure.
Hi there. So you mentioned that the buses come up in front of Walmart and everybody's getting off happy and they're seeming unafraid.
Sure.
But how many of the workers do you think aren't on those buses who are afraid? I mean, and my question is really aimed toward, are we underestimating the number of approved guest workers that are required in order to meet the needs of our agricultural community?
Yeah, I can't answer that either. I don't know what the numbers are. I just don't follow that. It's not something that we do. Now,
Gotcha.
one of the things that I will mention, when I say that they seem to be happy and fine, I was in my uniform, right?
Uh,
I wear a uniform every day. I mean, I'm not in my uniform right now, but every day, my wife calls me, "Hey, can you run to Walmart?" It's like, right? But I go, and on my way home, I will go in my uniform. And these people are walking next to me. I'll stop and I'll talk to them. Some of them speak English, some of them don't. Just they're not looking at me like, "Oh, I'm going away," right? This whole thing of people may be too afraid to report crime. We get reports all day. So I don't know where all that comes from. I don't know what that is. Just from my experience and my standpoint, it just seems very, again, political. These are political wars that are occurring, and it's unfortunate that we're dealing with people in a political war.
Thank you. That was super
Sure.
helpful. And thank you for coming tonight.
Sure.
Okay, Byron, you're back up.
So yeah, Sheriff Wagner, I've got a question I think you can answer. Have you heard of Braver Angels before tonight?
I heard about them on Monday. So
On
yes.
Monday from Sulani Madsen, maybe?
Yes, that's who it was. Yes.
She's a partner of mine.
Okay.
And I'm not disappointed. She is hooking us up with some really good people. I really appreciate how balanced you have. I mean, like you're balanced in that I'm hearing you're frustrated, and yet in that perhaps, there could be a tendency for some frustration. And in that, it's not one-sided. I mean, like I'm hearing that there was a little appreciation for the AG coming in, to help with a case. And so, yeah, thank you for balance. And I think with Braver Angels, I know in my community, what I'm working on is trying to depolarize and de-escalate the tensions within the community side to side, because get people talking, because that's going to make your job a lot easier too.
Yeah. So here's the message I would actually put out there. I'm human. There's nobody that's not, right? The reality is this: is if you hear tension in my voice, or you're thinking that I'm what was the word you said? I can't remember offhand, but
Frustration.
frustration.
Yeah, frustration. Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you. The only frustration that I have, because I deal with stuff every day. Okay. So I deal with the worst of the worst, the best of the best, and all that's in between. And it can come every minute, every second of the day. The frustration that you might hear from me, quite frankly, is people that have no idea about my community, how we are, what we do, why we have the people in the positions they have, why we've decided to love each other a little bit more every day. For whatever reason, this community, I'm going to get on a soapbox here for just a second about my community, okay? Because some people just drive by Othello, drive by Ritzville, and just keep driving, right? There's a church everywhere. On Sunday, everybody's at church. We care about our community. We work very hard to be fair. We work very hard to de-escalate. We work very hard to make sure that everybody has a chance to be safe. And so that's the frustration in my voice. And I'm very, very, very passionate about it. So when I hear somebody from Olympia tell me that we're doing something to hurt my community, that's infuriating, because they have no idea what they're talking about. When I have the biggest church in our community that has I shouldn't say all Hispanic, but it's a huge Hispanic church, huge. The leaders coming to me saying, "Sheriff, we support you." That means everything to me. And I will fight to the end for that, because I've done it my whole entire career, my whole life. So yeah, soapbox over. Soapbox over.
No, sir. I want you to understand, I did not detect frustration in your voice tonight.
Sure. Okay.
Absolutely not. I just imagined that it might be there.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm very passionate about what I do and what I have. My team is the best in Eastern Washington, and most sheriffs, if they're honest, will say that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. What's your
Sure.
first name?
Dale.
Dale. Thank you, Dale.
Yes, sir.
We usually try to wrap up by 9 o'clock. Is anybody feeling a need to add another comment or query? Okay, well, Janice or Liz, you guys are usually our wrapper-uppers. What do you want to add other than great thanks to Mr. Wagner, your willingness to speak to us. It's sad to say, but for many of us, putting a face and a voice on a person who's in law enforcement and trying to do this day to day, is a plus, because we just don't talk to you enough.
Well,
And so I just really appreciate you being here.
so I would suggest that you reach out to your local leaders. When you guys are, I don't know any of you. I don't see anybody on here from my county, right? But your local leaders, they need to be heard very, very, very passionately. Your local leaders, you can look at the national level, you can look at the state level, but really where life is
Yeah.
right here locally. And your sheriffs, I mean, I'm seeing Twist, but I think that's Chelan. Is that Chelan or Douglas?
Okanagan.
Okanagan. Okay, so you have who do you have?
Paul Boudreaux.
Paul Boudreaux. Okay. Look, most sheriffs that I know, there's only 39, sorry, in the state. Most sheriffs that I know are very passionate, Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter. Okay, we serve not to get a paycheck, we serve the people. And I would say that about most electeds, whether it be your county commissioners, your auditor, your treasurer, all those people they want to do what's right and best for their community. Our oath says it at the end, to the best of our ability. And that's really what we're doing it for. We get bad ratings, we get good ratings. There's all sorts of people that like you and some that don't. But we don't do it for the accolades for the most part. We do it because we feel like it's the right thing. And that's really, I would suggest everybody on this group, that's probably the message, even over immigration and all the things you're talking about. We got to get back to civility. We've got to start working together at some of these issues. And really, every county is different. From here to Okanagan, Okanagan has completely different things than I have. Same with every other county across the state. Some counties are bigger with metropolitan places. We're dealing with farmland. I'm dealing with the immigration stuff. We're dealing with the fear that's instilled in my community because of one policy change by somebody. So those are the things that we're dealing with. And I appreciate the conversation. I hope this isn't a got you moment. I hope that if you are going to play it, play all of it. Don't just play it.
You know where it's going, Sheriff Wagner. It's going
I don't.
Sulani's Substack. That's where it's going.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Well, it's going to be validated by Sulani, who brought you here.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where it's going. It's no gotcha here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Sheriff Wagner, you did a really good job of summarizing what Braver Angels is all about.
Okay.
That's why we're here. Is our goal is to get back to civility and
I
have
agree.
conversations with people who we differ or who have different views than us, and that's what you've just been part of tonight.
Yeah, I think another thing, and I don't want to keep bringing up points, but I think it's important. You brought it up to say that we may disagree on things. That is human every single time. But how we deal with it with each other is
Exactly.
is really what needs to change. Because this yelling and screaming and fighting and being ridiculous and trying to ruin the other person or whatever, it's just so, it's draining. I would rather deal with criminals, quite frankly.
Well, wrapping up, I've got a mantra that, and it's more of a question, a continuing question.
Yeah.
How can we be in connection and disagree accurately, and have the connection be more important, be the thing that draws us together and find commonalities in?
Well, I think truth matters, right?
Yeah.
The other gentleman that was on here was asking, hey, where do I go for all this information? The internet's hard to navigate nowadays, right? I think, like I explained before, talk to the people that know. Don't just take the word for that, because, like it or not, you have left-leaning news media, you have right-leaning news media. Very rare do you find someone in the middle. So stories are all over the place, right? That's why I say go to your local leaders, have a discussion similar to this, if they're willing. I mean, this is a hard time. I mean, I'll be honest. I was thinking, man, do I even want to do this? I don't even know if I want to do this, right? And a lot of it is because you don't know what to expect anymore. I don't know any of you, never met you personally. I could have gone on here and it could have been a complete disaster. Someone just yelling because they don't like me, or they don't like the policy, or they believed what was said in the paper, or whatever it is, right? And I witnessed this firsthand just the other night, or the other day, with Mr. Baumgartner came to Ritzville. We're talking I don't know if you've ever been to Ritzville, but we're talking a tiny town. Came to Ritzville for a public forum for people in our community, so he can discuss the issues that are happening in our community of Adams County. His team called us before and said, "Hey, we liked some security there, or whatever," and they do this everywhere. There was people following him around, 15 to 20 people following him around from every single one of these things, just to heckle and yell and scream and make a scene. And that's not civic. It's not right. It's not respectful. So getting back to that kind of environment, I think, is important. This kind of environment, having an open discussion, you may not agree with me at the end of this, but at least you heard my point of view to an extent. I can't get into total details and all that stuff, but hopefully you'll know that, hey, maybe it's not all what it was written in the paper.
Well, this is amazing because you're the sheriff. In other words, that Sulani was asking at the back of the room, how many people are local, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, that's already on. See, I'm doing recording with her, so that's already up on
Yeah.
our. Yeah. So this is really amazing. Thank you to
Sure.
actually meet the person she was talking about. And I'll
Sure.
tell you something else. I know Paul Boudreau. And he's just every bit just like you. And I admire that man. I've interviewed him.
We have good sheriffs in this state. Right now, we're getting pushed very hard. And a lot of it's just because of control, in my opinion. They don't want somebody that can say, yeah, not for my community. They don't want that, in my opinion, right?
Say that again. I'm on a spectrum, so I need.
That's okay.
Say that again.
Yeah. So the sheriffs all the sheriffs in the state of Washington are good sheriffs. Very, very solid people. They're voted by their people for a reason, right? But we feel like we're under attack as sheriffs because of the position that we hold. We are constitutional, and we can somewhat say, not for our community. That's not what we're doing for our community, right? And not that that's a stand every time, and not that we're breaking the law as it can be depicted in the paper, but we are the executive law enforcement officer of our county. We are the sheriff, and we know what's best for our community when it comes to those things. In our opinion, obviously. The state might have a different opinion. Other people may have a different opinion. Some people look at us as nut jobs that think they're in control and want this and that and the other thing. Look, I don't get paid enough to deal with all that garbage. But we do it because we love our community and we want it to be safe.
It's about 9:00. And
Yep.
before we close, I want to again say thank you to Sheriff Wagner, but also to all of the participants. And I know that some of you are pretty new to Braver Angels. It's 9:00. I don't want to say let's stay on now and ask us questions, but if anyone wants to schedule what I call chat with a co-chair, and set up a time that a red and blue co-chair will get together with you on a Zoom and make an opportunity to explore better how can you get involved with Braver Angels, how can you volunteer, things like that. So if any of you want to do that, please put your name or email in the chat to me. Liz Wise, and we'll see what we can set up. So thank you very much. I'm so tickled to see Virginia Colvig. I think she's still here, although I lost her on my Zoom screen.
There she is.
Yeah, there she is. Because we did a chat with a co-chair in October or November or something. And there is so much going on now, and she gets all the credit and the team that she's working with, but the opportunity to help work on how can we interface, how can we work together, we really want to be there for you. So it's an option.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Please go to braverangels.org for more information, and please consider joining us. Thank you.